Today we're going to be discussing the ever so famous Depop girl. So for those of you who are not familiar, let's define the Depop girl. Oh shit. I was gonna get my computer out for this, but we'll just do the old-fashioned way. What is a Depop girl? Urban Dictionary, obviously. Someone who takes all the cute, cheap clothes from her local thrift store and sells them for an extremely inflated price on Depop or other resale apps. So these apps include Depop, Poshmark, and there's a lot of Instagram sellers, which is technically what I was, but I do have a website. Anyways, I'm going to take myself out of the equation. I'm not trying to make this video in defense for myself. I'm trying to make this video to explain that Depop girl should not be used as a term of offense. So let's dive into that. So, my personal experience. Have I used Depop? Yes. Is that what I use for my business now? No. Have I been called a Depop girl? Yes. I feel like it's a pretty broad term, and anybody that resells anything get that term thrown around at them. I just find it more of annoying. I think people know that it's not a compliment to be called that. I remember I was thrifting one time with my mother, and I had a huge cart full of stuff because I was sourcing vintage stuff. If you know how to thrift, you put everything in your cart, and then at the end you go through it and weed out the things that you actually want to take. A girl probably similar to my age came up to me and she was like, "Are you a Depop girl?" First of all, we're both in the thrift store, so you're not much better than me. If you're a Depop girl, you should be proud because that's a hustle. You want to know how many people I hear say, "Oh yeah, I just donated all my clothes to the thrift store," and then someone's like, "Why don't you just put them on Depop? You could actually make money." Oh, that's too much work. Maybe give a fellow Depop girl a pat on the back. Anyways, so let's address the fact that people think Depop girls are stealing clothes from the thrift store from people who are actually in need, or the whole argument that thrifting is gentrification. I do believe there are issues in the corporate system of thrift stores. These problems do not lie within these Depop girls or an average person thrifting for their personal use or for a reseller's purpose. A lot of this information that I'm going to be relaying to you is coming from Imperfect Idealist. I will tag her links below. I think she communicates things very eloquently and simple, so it's not hard to understand. Firstly, there is a huge excess of clothing in all the thrift stores and in the entire world. Also, 80% of donations go unsold, meaning that because no one is buying them, they will end up in the landfill. If you want to be more sustainable, shopping at the thrift store is a great impact you can make choosing the more sustainable option. Another reason Depop girls get a lot of hate is because people are saying they're making the prices of the thrift store go up. We just got done saying how there is such an excess of clothes in thrift stores, but not only thrift stores, the whole entire world. It is not these Depop girls that are clearing the shelves, making the thrift stores drive up prices due to scarcity. This is coming from a corporate standpoint. People are seeing that there's a higher demand, so there's no shortage of clothes here. They're just saying, oh, we see a spike in demand, so we're going to up the prices. So that is where kind of people can get priced out of buying things if they are a lower income family, and that does not have to do with the Depop girl on a personal level. But now let's get to the reason why Depop girls can actually be benefiting. And the Depop girl term, like I said, is a grander phrase. We're talking about resellers in general. So most thrift stores are not actually charities. Usually these thrift stores partner up with social programs to help some type of program in that way. So resellers are actually helping these thrift stores make their budget, keeping their doors open, being able to pay workers. Because if you think about a person that is low income, you're obviously not spending a lot of money at a thrift store because you don't have that much money to begin with. But resellers, on the other hand, could be buying hundreds of dollars of clothing, and that is a much more sustainable income for these thrift stores to keep their doors open, to pay employees, and to then donate to these social programs. But at the end of the day, everything does need a little balance. So personally, I feel like resellers and people who are consuming vintage clothing, people know that Depop is a lot of work. You have to take a photo. It's marketing. You have to make it look good. You also have to have an eye for fashion. There's a whole business standpoint. Money coming in, money going out, what's actually worth it, making a profit, keeping track of sales, and I think it is honestly an art in some way of the way that people are able to curate vintage in their own personal style. Depending on the Depop girl you're going to, depending on the reseller that you're going to, you're getting their interpretation of beauty, what they're able to find in their location. Let's say I live on the East Coast. There's a whole lot of different vintage items on the West Coast. So oftentimes I do actually purchase from vintage resellers that are in a different area for me, because now I'm able to access a different type of vintage clothing that I wouldn't normally get access to because of my location. And that's what I think is beautiful about Depop girls and resellers and the internet. You're able to spread this vintage clothing, this sustainable option around the country, around the world even. I think the vintage thrifted style of clothing really helps create personal style, because you're not exactly going off of trends. You can't just see one girl wear something and be like, I want that exact shirt, and you can't go online and order it. You would have to either find a version that you like, something a little different, something maybe in a different color that you're experimenting with, figuring out what colors look good on you, what doesn't. I think there's more time spent in finding pieces and really analyzing what would fit in your wardrobe, and just more time spent with that in general creates personal style and curation. When it expands to something larger like Depop or a reseller's platform, I think that is the skill and what should be appreciated. The last thing that was mentioned in the definition is, why do they hike up the prices so much? Like, this is ridiculous. But as a reseller, there is a reason why prices are the way that they are, and I think the average customer or consumer doesn't exactly see that on base level. So let me explain kind of my thought process. Firstly, if you're thrifting a vintage item, a lot of the times vintage items, vintage brands are no longer being made because they're vintage. You cannot get this specific item anywhere else. I am the only place that you can get it. It's just like a rarity. Like, think about collectibles. The rarer the item, the more expensive it is. Kind of same with clothes. It's not really a cheap process from going to the thrift store, searching through everything there, finally taking it home, kind of washing it, making it new again, then taking a picture, then uploading it, then packaging it and shipping it. Like, that all takes a lot of time. As we know, time equals money. And for anything that takes time and skill, I think payment is deserved. I hope that maybe enlightens you a little bit or changes your mind in some way. I think there's a lot of passion and skill that goes in behind it, and I really do think it is benefiting the greater cause of our world of being sustainable. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. Hashtag no hate to the Depop girls. Actually, in honor of this, I'm gonna show you some of my favorite vintage items, because I really like vintage clothes, if you didn't know. I'm also sweating in my armpits now because I feel like I'm fighting with somebody, but I'm not. I just like get nervous when I'm trying to like stand my ground. Here are some of my favorite thrift finds, and if you do want to see any of my personal vintage finds, I will link my business and my website and everything below. Okay, this is staying in my closet forever and I still have not actually washed it, so the price tag is still on. This was $8. This is a very, very vintage, I think either late 60s, early 70s little winter jacket. Okay, next I actually did purchase off Depop. I didn't source these myself, but these are vintage bongo little booties. I did pay $150 for these, but that's what I'm saying. I'm willing to pay too. As much as I'm willing to charge, I'm willing to pay. I found these at a thrift store. It's actually a consignment shop. They're a vintage Robert Clergy platform, and they're $45, but they retail for $600, so I was not mad. And last but not least, I found these little vintage roller skates, but they're really cool and I want to learn how to roller skate. So that's the video. If you'd like to see more of me, you can follow my Instagram. I actually do more TikTok than YouTube, so you can follow me on TikTok. My @ is right here, and I post a lot of fashion and vintage related content on there. So if you like this, I think you'll like that more. Yeah, if you'd like me to make a video on anything else, let me know, and I'll see you next time. Bye.